Someone snuck up on me. I didn't see it earlier. Here you have Tiffany.
Thank you. We do have two new members of our council tonight, so we welcome them for winning the election for John and Mike. And if you would do a roll call, please.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Jumped the gun on
Yes.
that one.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Loughlin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Gina?
Next on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Grover,
Second.
seconded by Vaughn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next is our public comment. And the only one on our thing is Richard Wormuth. Would you like to come forward, please? Introduce yourself and give us your address.
Richard Wormuth, 812 3rd Street Southeast,
Yep.
here in Independence. First off, just a general comment was, I want to congratulate personally Mike and John. for
Thank you.
Close race.
It was.
The race definitely, every vote counts, doesn't it? So I want to commend them for putting their hat in the ring and go. I do have a question on the rates that are going up that was talked about last time, and you're going up in increments up to 5 years, I think there was talking. Is there, to your knowledge, a plan of action on improving the city sewer system and rates, or are we on a plan of action like in 5 years we're going to have this section of town done, in 10 years we're going to have half the town done, something like that? With the rate increase, if you have a plan of action and you can talk to the people and say, this is the reason why we are raising it, and this is the results that's going to happen, I think it's an easier justification for that. So that's the only comments I have. So thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is to approve, motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following minutes of the February 27th, 2017 regular meeting, city financials for the month of February, fire department financials for the month of February, music station Class B wine permit, Class C beer carryout, Class E liquor, fills and sells growlers, I don't know what that is, and Sunday sales license April 29th, 2017 through April 28th, 2018. And Shaheen Tidball Post number 30, Class C outdoor service and Sunday sales liquor license March 16th, 2017 through March 17, 2018.
Who was that, the one with the growlers?
Music station.
I don't know
What
what it
is that?
is. Fills and sells,
Fill
growlers.
cells and
Oh,
growlers.
growlers?
Yeah,
Growlers?
that's tap beer.
Yeah.
How could they do that?
Usually in gallon jugs.
Yeah, I know, but,
Music station.
From microbreweries.
yeah, but it's still tap beer, which is open to drinking it right there.
They never have had growlers before.
No, it's kind of a new thing around here. It's not new, but it's new around here.
Usually they just sell them at the
In
microbrewery.
fact, I think it was illegal till just not too many years ago to even sell growlers.
2 years ago, and in Decorah, they approved.
We need some of the younger
Decorah opened
patrons
a new
out there
brewery, and
that
then
know what a
they kinda got
growler
going.
is.
I ain't sure about that growl. I mean, they're not asking for permission to sell it by the drink, but it'd be pretty easy for them to get one, you know? I don't know how that works.
Let's look at Carter.
Oh, yeah, well, you can, what they do is exactly what Denny said, it's a tap product. They got a big keg and they fill a growler, it's usually, I think it's a 64 ounce, is a growler, I don't think it's a gallon, I think it's a half gallon. But they dispense it that way and you pay $8 or $10 for your growler of tap beer, and then you go home and consume it. You don't consume it on site. You're not allowed to consume it at the EB open containering. If you consumed it in the public space, but if you went home and consumed it, then you're fine.
But it's pretty easy to consume it right there if you're working there and all I gotta do is do this.
So's a can of beer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, if people want to break the rule, it'd be,
Oh,
Yes, a little bit.
not in this town, they wouldn't do that.
it'd be a little easier than opening a can of beer at the store, but it's kind of the same concept.
Right.
Have other communities approved this?
Yeah, yeah,
Through a convenience store, though?
yeah. When go to the Come and Go in Des Moines, I just saw it, that's why I know. At the Come and Go in Des Moines, in Johnston, right at that interchange into Johnston, where you go north up to Pioneer and John Deere Financial up there. On that interchange, if you stop at that Come and Go, they have a huge Come and Go, and that they have a whole wing where they dispense microbrews from all over Iowa, and that thing's packed with people coming in to fill their growler.
But they can't drink it there? They don't
No,
have,
No,
They gotta take it home. Yeah.
really? I've never heard of such a thing, so.
So you don't have any problem with us approving it?
No, we can regulate, we can control it just like we control all the other alcohol. We'll be fine.
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Okay,
second.
motion by Lenny, a second by Hill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Next on the agenda is approval of the claims.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, seconded by,
Second?
see, he spoke out.
this was
By
Bob,
Kurtz.
this was Bob's rule, blame Bob.
It was not Bob's rule to
But
raise your
only when
hand.
I filled in. When I'm not filling in,
Kurtz gets
it can't
credit.
be a rule.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried.
You know, she hasn't missed any time since then either.
Okay, then. Next
Two
is,
ways to read that.
next on the agenda under hearings and ordinance, planning and zoning. I need a motion to receive, file, and consider adopting the planning and zoning ordinance, chapter 3, section 3.24, wind turbines for the third and final time. This is bringing us up to the same instructions and stuff that the county has for this.
I'll make motion.
Motion by Hill,
I'll second it.
second by Grover. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
and Kurtz.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Next is motion to receive, file, and consider adopting the ordinance for the second time of chapters 155, 165 building codes. This will bring us up to the international standards of 2015 for our building codes.
For our new council members, Chief Cook has informed us that we don't adopt them immediately when the new ones come out. We generally wait a year or two to let any of the wrinkles that they might have in there be worked through. Also, the portion of the building code that calls for residential sprinkling has not been included in our building ordinances or our international building code, and that goes back to 2009, I believe it is, that they started putting that into the international building code. Ours has excluded that annually, and this one does as well.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Kurt.
Second.
Second by O'Laughlin. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Mayor, we do have in here, if the council so chooses, to waive the third reading and adopt it tonight if you wanted to.
I like to make motion to waive the third reading.
No reason to waiver it. What's one more session?
I agree. We waiver that too often.
Public might have a chance to come in and say something and gives them just a couple more weeks.
Well, you got a
I have a
motion?
motion. Do I have a second?
Well, I'll second it.
Okay.
What's
Any
the
other
motion?
discussion? Motion is to waive this third reading,
Oh.
pass it tonight for the third time.
This motion requires a supermajority. It takes 5 votes to pass on the third reading.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
No,
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah.
No.
Does that give us our supermajority?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda, a motion to receive and file and consider adopting the ordinance for the second time of our Chapter 92 water rates and Chapter 92 charges based on usage.
Did, before we do that, maybe you address Richard's question about the use of the increase, and I think this would be an appropriate time to do
Yes.
it.
Absolutely. The rate increase is based on a water and sewer rate study that was conducted last year. And they looked at not only our current operating costs, but also those costs affiliated with making those improvements in the 10-year capital improvement program. So the way they came up with the projected rates is looking at what it costs us to run the plant today and those improvements that are going to be necessary over the next 10 years. That's all calculated into the rate study for both water and sewer. So that's a long answer to say, yes, Richard, they are included. There is a plan, and the rates are based on that plan. So, but it is a
A lot
valid
of calls
question.
that people are against the rate increase.
Yeah,
I
well,
have two. In
okay.
fact, I've
I-
got
I
about as many
understand.
on this as I have the stop sign deal.
I understand that, but in my opinion, if we don't do it, we just fall farther and farther behind in our infrastructure.
Or have to start
And,
being more
and one of the
accountable for our
things,
money.
Talking.
one of the things to Richard and everybody, because we're stepping this in 5 increments, it doesn't get us to the point after 5 years that was recommended that we have, because we're not doing it all at once. And so this is an attempt to get as close as we can to what they recommended, but because we're not doing it all at once, it falls a little short, right? Just mathematically,
You're 5 years behind today's recommendation.
yeah, so.
And just so everybody's aware, the rate study was conducted by Iowa Rural Water Association on behalf of the city. I mean, they came in and did the study for us. This was not something that was done by city staff or what have you. It's an outside person looking at what we're doing and what our rates are.
You had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I've had as many calls on this as I have about the stop signs and the speed limit and all that sort of thing. It seems to be a hot button, and the majority of the people might be wrong, but the majority of the people that I've talked to don't want the rate increase. I'm actually for it, but I'm going to vote against it because that's the way my constituents relayed the message to me that they wanted.
The only thing from a staff perspective I would ask is, what ongoing maintenance and operation costs do we drop on our water and sewer system if we don't put that in?
Well, maybe you should ask the people at the newspaper to put that question out to the constituents. I'm only relaying the message I've gotten.
But have any of them suggested anything they would do without if we don't do it? That they could do without?
How much money's in the fund right now for the public to know?
I don't have an exact number off the top of my head, Deb. The water department has about 800,000 in its fund balance right now. The sewer would be higher than that, and I'm going to say about $1.3 million in the sewer department.
But that, correct me if I'm wrong, that money is there especially for emergency use and other things that we don't plan on. It's not there for ongoing maintenance and repair.
You will have to carry a fund balance in the utilities for those emergencies. Water main breaks, water valve breaks, sewer line collapses. any of those expenses that you can't plan for, there's a significant cost every time that you make those repairs. So, if we don't use it through the utility fund, your other funding source is property tax dollars. I mean, that's your other option.
I make a motion, we don't waiver the third reading on this.
This one does not have the provision for a third
No.
reading. That was not put in here. So Carter would strongly urge you not to consider a third reading because it's not posted as such.
No, I agree with that.
It says possible waiver of third reading on here.
Under this one?
Maybe I have the wrong one.
I don't see it, but
Maybe I've got the wrong one.
That was the previous one had it on it.
And we've never waived this kind of
No.
motion. What we do is the only ones we've ever waived, the third reading is the redundant ones that everybody knows. Whether we're gonna put a stop sign, and they've had 2 times to come and tell us they don't want the stop sign. These building codes, we have never, ever waived something where we're raising a tax levy, where we're raising a fee for something. So I don't think we need to get excited about waiving the third reading on things.
One of the things that I looked at when I was reading through all this on the water and sewer is they have in the study a water loss analysis, and they had us at 19.4% water loss. And I know a lot of that's from those water mains that we had leaks in, that type of thing. But another one was the old swimming pool. They were losing significant amounts there. And I had asked about it when they were doing the swimming pool project, how much they were losing, and they don't have a water meter on it. Now, we're gonna have a water meter on the new pool, so if we do identify that we're losing water, we can figure out where it is.
We do have a meter on the new pool, absolutely. As a matter of fact, part of the follow-up on this is we're also implementing water meters on our city facilities. Part of that 19% are all of our city facilities that do not have water meters or have not had water meters. And Mark is going through and making sure that those are all being taken care of. So, yes, that number's too high. They recommend that we.
It should be 15% or lower. Is that-
Right. And so we are, to be fair, part of that 19% is city use, so it's not loss.
Okay. Any other discussion?
no, but I think that and I'm gonna go way out on a limb. I'm glad people have called you guys. I haven't had a single call on this. And I think that the people in town, everybody ought to just, all they gotta do is get online and look at Detroit or some of these other cities, or look at
Flint,
a lot of these Flint, yeah. Or look at a lot of these older cities in Iowa and across the country. And to not want to take care of that infrastructure is nothing but trouble. It's not fun, but it's nothing but trouble.
The only thing I had is, I've had 4 or 5 people, obviously don't like to pay more, but they've expressed appreciation that we did split it up over 5 years and didn't hit everybody right off the bat. And I think the last time we did a rate increase was what?
2012.
2012, so. And I think we talked last time, just doing one of those sewer line repairs out by the high school, the collapse was in the thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands, yes.
So doesn't take too many of those to eat up whatever you've got. And we do have a study going on right now. We're hopefully within the next few months on the sewer plant and recommendations for both safety and upgrading of equipment out there. So it's either pay a little bit as we go, or at some point, someone else, another generation is going to get zapped for a lot. So we might as well pay as we go, not put it off on somebody else's shoulders.
I mean, you guys saw what happened to the streets. everybody was happy for, what, 10 or 15 years that we didn't do anything in it because the council didn't want to do anything with the streets, but look at what we got. And this is exactly where you end up when you don't do a little bit each year.
I agree with you, Mike, but I haven't had anybody call me up and say, let's go for this rate increase. In fact, let's increase a little more. I
Nobody's
haven't
ever
had
gonna
that one
call.
person
Denny,
yet.
Denny, nobody's ever
I've
gonna
had a
call.
lot of them tell me they were not in favor.
I know, but it's just like asking people questions. It's all in how you put the question. Nobody is gonna ever call you out and say, thanks a lot, Denny, for the increase. They just don't. It's not human nature. I'm sorry.
You look around the United States and every community is going through infrastructure issues. And I think being proactive in something like this is the right way to go. Otherwise, it's going to get real expensive.
And people are shocked that have talked to me since the election when they find out that this still puts us 5 years behind,
Yeah.
you know. But it's a step in the right direction, and I'm glad we're taking this step, but that's a misconception people have, that it's going to bring us up to speed when it's not.
Yeah, I mean, by the time we get to the rate that we're gonna be at in 2022, it's the rate we should have been at in 2017. So by that point, we're still where we were supposed to be this year, except for we didn't get all that money every year, which in turn means we're actually still behind what we should have been in 2017.
The other fear that has been expressed, or I shouldn't say fear, the other concern that's been expressed has to do with where does this money go? The water and sewer rates have to stay in the utility. Water rates go into the utility fund, the sewer rates go into the utility, into the sewer utility. They do not come into the general fund. So, to alleviate that concern, the rate increase does go into the operations of the utilities.
Is there a consistently allocated amount every year for eventual replacement or repairs at the?
There is some set aside for your ongoing maintenance and addressing that. Most of this goes into larger projects in the utilities. And again, in the 10-year CIP, you'll see a number of things,
Yeah, that's right.
filters, valves, equipment replacements. The wastewater treatment plant itself has some pretty significant physical infrastructure upgrades that have to take place there. The stairs that have, concrete stairs that have basically crumbled into almost nothing. As an example, I mean, there's several of those things that have to be taken care of. A digester hatch that is eroded, it's a very corrosive environment, and there's a hatch that has to be replaced. Well, that's a stainless steel hatch, and we can spend a lot of time talking about the cost of it. We don't like the costs, but if that's what's out there and that's what you have to put on to make the replacements, that's where you're at. There is money being set aside each year in a sewer plant replacement fund. At some point in time, depending on what EPA and the DNR come up with for new rules and regulations for discharge out of our wastewater plant, at some point, you'll be talking about a new sewer treatment plant. Our current plant was built in 1980. There have been some pretty significant improvements since 1980 to the plant, but it is a specific plant. If they change what we can and cannot discharge into the river, a new sewer plant is in that $8 to $10 million range. So you don't want to be caught flat-footed with that either. Again, we're not anywhere near having $8 million set aside for that replacement, but there is money being set aside each year, knowing that at some point in time, you will replace your plant.
And we haven't always done that. When I first went on the council 10 years ago, and Mike would support this, it had been depleted for a couple of reasons. One, we didn't raise rates when Tyson left town the first time, and we supplemented the cost of operation with our balances, and we had to do a significant increase probably about 10 years ago because we had used it. The other thing, and we don't do it anymore, is it had been easy to not do tax levy debt increases. We bought a fire engine, we put in new windows in City Hall, and we used enterprise funds. We didn't pay ourselves back. That's one of the reasons I like to have the state come in and do auditing every year, because we did some things that depleted these funds and we shouldn't have been doing. And so part of the capital improvement over the years has been waylaid because nobody wants to raise a tax levy to borrow money to buy a fire engine. Nobody wanted to raise tax levies, so we borrowed from other funds. And then that depleted those funds. And I think over the last 7, 8 years, we've done a good job of getting on track, trying to put together capital improvement funds. But that in turn, when you put money away in capital improvement funds, that takes away money from the general operating fund. And it's always been real easy to say, okay, we're going to put money away for new squad cars in the police department. Well, something comes up and all of a sudden that capital improvement money went to something else. We have not done a good job up until the last probably 5, 6, 7 years of saying that money's off limits. That money is not going to be spent for something else. But in turn, it's taking us time to build those capital improvement funds up too. And so I guess I look at these things that we are getting better at doing this, but on the other hand, it's real easy to say, I don't want to have extra money, but if you want to flush your stool, if you want water to come out of the faucet when you turn it on, every time we fix a valve, another one starts leaking. Every time we fix a section of pipe, another section of pipe leaks. Why? Same problem all cities do. Most of our infrastructure is probably anywhere from 70 to 100 years old. And it's not pretty. Everybody likes to see a new sidewalk. Everybody likes to see a new street, but you can't see a sewer line. Right now, we're running sewer across the river. We really need to take a look at some of the piping that carries our sewer across the river, that we're undersized, just going from west to east. But those are all things that over the years, we've stuck our head in the sand and said, I don't want to spend any money, so if I don't see the problem, then I don't need to spend the money. Yes, we do have people on fixed incomes, but those people also use the bathroom, they use tap water, and unfortunately, all of those things do cost money. And if we want companies to come to town, if we want young couples to settle here with families, then we need a community that can support those kinds of things. And, you know, right now our sewer plant, it's basically using bacteria out there. It doesn't take much to throw that bacteria system off. It's a system that doesn't get put in anymore for that very reason. The federal government's talking about nitrates in river water. Now maybe our current administration might say that we're not going to do that. I have mixed feelings on it as a business owner, but on the one hand, I see it as a cost, but on the other hand, do we want cattle aborting because we've got too much nitrogen in the water? Do we want families losing babies because they got too much nitrogen in their drinking water? So, yeah, we can stick our head in the sand and say we don't want to reduce the amount of nitrates. Do we have a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico? Yeah. Do we stick our head in the sand and say let's not do anything about it? But we can't. And at some point, some generation is going to have to step forward and say, I guess we got to foot the bill for what the rest of the people. One of the prime stories, my parents and my in-laws on nursing homes, can't afford nursing homes, can't afford the taxes. Well, they're older now, and you know what I hear from them? Well, nobody cares about us because we're not building any nursing homes. We don't have things to take care of us. They said we don't have the money to do it. So I get off my soapbox, but that's why we're doing it.
Okay. I think I'm going to call for a vote, or I need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Grover, seconded by
I'll second.
Hill. We need a roll call, please.
Vaughn,
No.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
No.
Lenius.
Yes.
Did that need a supermajority also? But we did get a,
We got it.
got it anyhow. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Motion did carry. Next, under resolutions is, we had a meeting right before this one at 6 o'clock, a special meeting that we had a public hearing on our budget amendment and budget. State law required that we couldn't have a hearing the same meeting that we approved the budget, so this time we're doing the approvals. So I need a motion to approve the resolution amending fiscal year 2017 budget and transfers.
So moved.
Motion by Kurt, seconded by Voice, Vaughn.
Yes.
I'll get him trained eventually. Roll call, please.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius.
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried.
Al, maybe you want to explain why we're changing the 2017 budget here when we're almost at the end.
The 2017 budget sets a revenue and an expenditure line item. If our expenditures increase for any reason, including unexpected revenues, an insurance settlement to fix a squad car, for example, we cannot do that without the budget amendment. We had some water and sewer infrastructure opportunities that did cost some money. We did have insurance settlement that came in that, in order to fix the squad car, we spent money that we didn't have at the time that the budget was set a year ago from today. And this budget amendment just gives us the expenditure authority for those funds. In the budget amendment, all additional expenditures must be balanced with a revenue stream of from someplace. So in this case, it does. The balance transfer sheet that you have in the packets and that's in the council packet shows where those transfers come from and where they're going to. So it does balance. The revenues have come in to offset those expenditures.
Okay, next on the agenda is a motion to approve the resolution setting the fiscal year 2018 budget and transfers.
So moved.
Motion by O'Laughlin, seconded by, second.
Hey, there's the
Hannah?
criteria, the one she hears, not
Yes,
the
you got it.
arm she sees.
Roll call, please.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius.
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Next on our agenda is the street engineer. You need to be making deciding. You had an email, something about you had a plan or something.
I always
We
got
just-
a plan. It's whether or not people agree with it.
Do you want to share your plan with
Well,
the rest of the council members?
I guess I look at it like, they were all competent. And for John and Mike, we went through them in quite a bit of detail. And these five actually all came and talked to us. They're all competent. And then we voted on them, or we ranked them. Came out with a tie, right?
Three-way.
Three-way tie.
Three-way tie. So I guess my proposal, and, sometimes, sometimes you just have to set a criteria for it when things are so equal. I would propose that our criteria would be the one who received the most first number one rankings.
Did our two new ones do the rankings?
No.
We shared the RFQs with them. They've had a chance to review the materials, but they were not here for the interviews, and they get to rank them tonight.
From my perspective, after reviewing these, and speaking with Al, it sounds like they all meet the criteria of what we need.
I think they all do.
I would propose to go local.
Well,
Good choice.
that's the way,
Let's let,
As I,
you go ahead, Deb.
no, John.
I read through them all also, and they all have outstanding qualifications. And engineers all have engineering degrees. I mean,
They're
some
all
of them are,
PEs.
yeah. And I just feel by staying local, they're gonna have a lot more personal ownership in what happens in the city of Independence than somebody in Dubuque or Minnesota or wherever it is. That's my personal feeling.
Okay. In case the public would not be aware of this, we did have a meeting of the whole the first Monday of the month, and that's when we interviewed 5 engineers. And this is for a project out for 17th Avenue, Avenue Street,
Avenue Southeast.
17th
Southeast. Street Southeast.
17th Street East, okay, and 150. And then also doing some prioritizing for our street plans for what streets we're going to be doing the next several years. So that's the area we're looking at. So is there any other comments anybody wants
Well,
to
the
make?
intersection is actually the one at Norby's and where the Dollar Tree is now.
Right,
and
right.
it's
We
a
had had a
nightmare to get in
request
and
from
out of.
several companies out there.
Trees and
5 or
Morrisons
6,
are all back
right,
there.
that's a very busy street. We're not sure, whatever we do, DOT has to approve it, but we're not sure what we'll be able to do it. So that's what the engineers are going to be looking into.
Karen Connell, 312 Second Avenue Southwest. I attended the workshop where the interviews were being held. I just want some clarification. The interviews this was request for qualifications to be able to do a street study, right?
Right.
So what is the street study gonna cost? I didn't hear any dollar amount. This is not bid, is there anything else?
Under the request for qualifications, it's based on the engineering firm's qualifications to do the study, not on who's the lowest bidder, who can do the cheapest. It's based exclusively on qualifications.
So then you will hold a bid process for the cost of a
No.
study?
No, we are allowed to do a request for qualifications for professional services without doing a formal bid. So this will not be a bid item. It is going out for qualifications. The council tonight will award this request for qualification to one of the 5, and they will be doing the traffic study at 17th Street Southeast and Highway 150, as well as the street prioritization project.
This is not making any changes or building anything. This is just doing the engineering.
How much is the study gonna cost? How much is it?
Maybe I can answer this to Karen, because Karen, I asked the same question during the workshop. And, I thought, well, it'd be nice to be able to have at least 2 or 3 bids. The problem is you don't really have any way to bid it, right? You don't have anything concrete enough. The bids maybe aren't gonna mean anything. And we're also choosing somebody not just for this a block and a half or whatever we're gonna do this year. It's for beyond that, for into the future. So you don't really have a way to come to a good understanding of what the bid is.
So you're gonna hire a street engineer for the city?
No,
I mean,
just for
does
this
then move
project.
on After the study, move on to the actual engineering of any work that possibly is gonna be done on the streets?
Yeah.
That's a decision the council has the option of making at that point in time or at any time. This is just a more formalized process for selecting that service. There's nothing in state law, and I'll look to Carter to correct me, but there's nothing in state law that precludes us from going out and hiring an engineer without going through an RFQ process or an interview process. This actually adds a significant level of formality to this selection
I
process.
can understand the request for the qualifications and everything. I don't understand how you can go on then with, say, the study, any other street work that an engineer is, so that engineering firm is going to have that street, they're gonna have the streets. If you decide to do a street, they're gonna have those streets to
No.
engineer.
If the council chooses to grant them additional work outside of the scope that was put into the RFQ, they have the right to do that at any time.
Go back into the bid process back at that
There-
point in time.
There is no bid process for professional services. The city council can simply award this traffic study or their prioritization to anybody they want with no process whatsoever. When it comes time to engineer a street or to engineer a water project, there is no requirement legally to go out and bid for engineering services. They can simply award it to an engineering firm. The,
And maybe it would be another engineering firm and not necessarily the one that you have.
they could go out and pick somebody that,
Project,
absolutely.
okay. So then how much have you budgeted for the study of the streets and this intersection?
We have some money set aside for both the traffic study and the street prioritization study. And I apologize, I can't give you that off the top of my head because it's built into not only the street budget, but into our capital improvement budget.
Okay, my last comment is the street infrastructure is in need of attention. I understand that. So then when you have a sign on Third Avenue Northeast, right in front of the Majestic, that says no through trucks, is Third Avenue a farm to market street to handle the weight of the trucks that are going up and down Third Avenue Northeast?
My understanding is that it is sufficient to carry the weight of the trucks that are going there. The purpose of the no-through truck sign there has to do with your general traffic on 150, not the local truck traffic.
But the truck traffic that is going up Third Avenue, as everybody knows, is going to Wapsie Valley Creamery, most likely,
And Jensen Trucking.
and Jensen Trucking and stuff. Why are we, is that street heavy enough, thick enough to be able to support the weight of those trucks that are, I mean, why not just take the sign down and let it go?
Okay,
You're
that's
saying
not,
one thing with an
No,
ordinance,
but
and you're-
Karen, the
but that's
reason,
not,
the
that's not
reason-
what we're discussing tonight. Tonight, we're just discussing is just the engineer.
He just explained it to you. If you
Yeah.
don't have no through, every semi coming up 150, not everyone, but they'll just jump across there and go up to take a shortcut. At least it stops, the semis who aren't supposed to be doing it from going up there.
It's kind of deceiving when you have a sign there that says no through trucks, and then you watch the trucks go up there. I mean, another one could follow them up there and maybe not have anything to do with it. I mean, I think it's kind of deceiving. Should be one way or the other. You either use it or you don't use it. The other trucks can use 150 also, couldn't they?
It's not deceiving to the truck drivers. They understand.
But they're not really a through truck if they're
Yeah.
going to the creamery or Jensen.
Right.
One of the reasons, and we had this discussion,
Well, we'll be repairing
we,
that street someday.
Someday.
well, we will, but if you talk to Tim, that street was constructed to handle truck traffic. Now, the reason that that sign is up there is just as Al said, with the school there, the amount of truck traffic you want on that, you want it to be limited. So you don't want 100 trucks a day going up there that would not take that, because trucks don't like to make the right-hand turns. They don't like to make the left-hand turns. One of the reasons that the Wapsie Valley trucks and Jensen go up that way is that if you have trucks starting to make a left turn off of 150 going north onto 10th Street Northeast, you're going to have somebody get killed, because those trucks are turning west, and we have cars coming up over the railroad tracks, and those cars are going to hit those trucks because trucks don't make those turns in a split second. So basically, what the city has said is trucks going to Jensen's, trucks going to Wapsie Valley can use that street. Can other trucks do it? Yeah, I guess if they want to go up through there. But it's to limit the number of trucks that are going on the street, but the street itself has been constructed to support truck traffic. So I think Tim's back there. Am I misspeaking?
I'm not sure it's designed semi, I mean, it's a brick street underneath the asphalt. I'm not an engineer, that'd be up to these guys to design houses. If it handle, like I say, it's an old brick street with asphalt overlay.
And they have
Look at the
semis.
street, you can tell where the street is, looks like it's starting to settle, and the manholes are starting to raise a little bit. But I don't know, I'm assuming this has to do with heavy loads, but I couldn't tell if it's designed for that my way or not, I don't know.
Well, then if we have to take truck traffic off of it, then that's what we should have the engineers tell us. But that's what we were told in the past, is that street could support a limited amount of truck traffic.
But I think the most important thing you said is if those trucks are going up Highway 150 North and turning left to go to the Creamery or to go to Jensen's, it's just an accident waiting to happen because the people are coming off of a 45. They come pretty fast off of that above. And now the railroad is actually crowned a little bit more. I mean, they come over pretty fast and those semis are going that way. It's a bad thing if we require them to go that way, I believe.
When they leave, Bob, which way do they go now? They exit
What's that?
the Creamery. Which way do they go?
Most of them turn south on 150.
Right, so they're still using that
Oh,
intersection.
they're not crossing crossing.
Trust me,
both
I would,
lanes.
either that or run over that big curb and blow out your tires, you're gonna cross over that other way.
Okay, is this part of the street study that they're gonna be doing for
Depends on
all our
what street.
streets?
Not
and
right now.
prioritizing-
Maybe it will be some.
Prioritizing our streets, otherwise we're off the subject of what we're on our agenda.
Well, I just wanted to comment, I think since everybody did the study and did the recommendation that if everything is equal, I think we should stay local. I mean, I think that's the way, if there was a vast difference of opinion, but that's at least my feeling. I think that if we're equal, then that has to be the criteria that we go with.
Yeah, we got signs at the mill that say shop local. They asked everybody in Independence to shop local. They're all equal, so why wouldn't we hire local?
I need a motion
I'll make a
to fill
motion.
in. You need to make a motion and fill in.
I'll make a motion to approve Crawford Engineering for the streets project
I'll second it.
and program. I guess, and program, does that mean, is this one also for the traffic study or do we do it twice?
This is, no, this is the traffic study and the street
Okay,
prioritization.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I already seconded it.
I know. We have a motion from Lenny, a second by Vaughn. Do you want to actually say what they're voting on before we take the roll call?
Sure. It's to approve engineering services agreement with Crawford Engineering for the street projects and program.
Okay, roll call.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes,
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
And thank you to all the firms that came in tonight and the
Yes.
work that they put into this.
Yeah. We did appreciate, you were all very good. Thank you.
Next on my agenda is under new business. We had a $30 check that was given for our police department K-9 donation, and it came back. And in our policy, we have a $30 charge for any non-sufficient fund checks. This is a motion to take out for when it's a donation rather than paying a bill or something. So we need a motion to approve a waiver of the $30 for the NSF service charge and the bad check policy on the police department K-9 donation check.
I make that motion.
I think we should,
Oh, go ahead.
we talked about this in
Finance.
the finance meeting the other day, and we did come to, we talked about it, and we believed that we should waive it, that it was the right thing, but also that we should change the policy. So that's what this does.
This just waives the $30
Yeah, I
for
would-
this
Oh, this
particular
one's-
check.
Okay.
I think that you should take a little more time on the policy. While I don't disagree with it, I think the timing of the issue coming before you tonight has to do with the waiving the $30 NSF fee. The policy, we can address that. I think we should make sure that we do it comprehensively. So if it's okay with you, I'd wait with the policy, but would ask for your action on the NSF service charge.
I make a motion.
Okay, motion by Vaughn, or did you already make the motion?
Second by Deb.
You made the motion first?
No, that's fine.
Deb? Okay, well, no, Deb made the motion, your
Can
second.
I ask another question?
Yes,
This is waiving the charge to the person that wrote the check?
that's correct. City policy states that if there is an NSF check to the city, we add to the price of that check any of our service fees, and there were some bank fees that we incurred because of it. So those were added to it. In addition to that, we have the right to add the $30. It's simply a city policy, so it's a city charge.
It's a fundraiser, John.
But this
I was
particular
just gonna say, you
check
might get
was
to
for-
spend a night in Dustin's hotel.
It was for a fundraiser.
I don't think our policy says that they get to go to jail.
The philosophy is, they were making a contribution to a city fundraiser. It would be a pretty stiff penalty for doing that, and the individual wants to make restitution. I mean, there's no issue with that. We won't speculate on how we got to this point, but the fact is, it is a donation and not paying a utility bill or another service fee.
So I have a motion by Hannah, second by Vaughn on this. Do you need a roll call for this? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We can finally clear that. Our county engineer is here. Now, next on our agenda is Bland Boulevard project.
Good evening, I'm Brian Kylaber, I'm the Buchanan County Engineer. And I'm gonna say it was probably less than a year ago, we were asked to put together a set of plans or prepare to pave Bland Boulevard. Now, the first step I had to go through was get it changed, its federal functional, or its functional name. It was classified as a local road rather than a farm market road. So for me to spend farm market funds, I had to get it reclassified. The reclassification board meets twice a year. And we tried to get it without taking off other roads, but they said I couldn't do that, so I had to take some roads off my farm market system to be able to put this one on, which in itself is a fun process. At any rate, we put together the set of plans to pave. We did include turning lanes on the Iowa Avenue end. We had to mill out the center. The crown on the existing road was close to 7% in areas, and I really need to get down to about a 2% crown on a concrete pavement. So we've got to mill out some of the center. We'll take those millings and put them on the outside edge. We've got it set up for 2 22-foot lanes plus 2 4-foot paved shoulders is the way we've got this set up, plus turning lanes on the other end. And rather than being 6 inches thick, because I cut out so much of the millings, I wasn't comfortable with that anymore. We went to a 7-inch thick pavement. So it all adds up. Everything you do adds cost to it. And I put some plans together so you guys could have copies earlier. Is there any questions?
And this is something the county is paying 2/3 of it, and we're paying 1/3 of it,
Well,
which
what
I
we
think
would
we've
do
already
is, I don't
budgeted.
know the exact breakdown, but what portions in the city would be paid by the city and the portions in the county would be paid by the county.
Okay.
And we would end up paving everything up front and then bill you back for the balance of that.
Okay.
And the agreement that we'd be using is existing 28E for corporate line agreements.
I think we set these funds aside already, haven't we?
When we had the gas tax increase, those funds that started coming in last year have been set aside and accumulating so that we would have road use tax to pay our share.
It's in bad shape. It needs to be repaired. A lot of heavy traffic out there at the school.
I remember not that many years ago, it was just cinder road.
Cinder Road, yeah.
Yeah.
Had lots of trees lining it too at one time too,
400
didn't it?
trees. I rode on a house one time through there cutting down limbs.
Will the 4-foot shoulders be enough for safe bicycle riding out there?
Well, I'm putting 4-foot shoulders on some of my rural roads, and I don't know if you've ridden between Independence and Winthrop, but without the rumbles, center edge rumbles, I haven't put any of that on this project.
I was gonna ask, I hope you weren't gonna do the rumbles.
I don't want my bike to flip.
Well, and really, we gotta be worried about the safety of everybody.
Yep.
And that's why the center and edge rumbles, and distracted driving is such a huge issue nowadays.
Yeah. Well, and you got kids, a lot of kids are using that too, and come right out of school and hammer up the text. Is 4 feet typically what you would do to, if somebody talked to you about a bike lane, or would it be wider?
Yeah, if I was to go with a classification on a bike lane, the federal guideline is 6 feet. But now, if I was to try and sell a 6-foot bike lane out there, I don't think that would fly. Remember, you guys only get about a third of it, we have 2/3. Now, if you wanna
Well,
pay
you
for
got
all that
Shanka,
additional
you got
cost-
Shanka, you got Shanka and Ord on your side too, so.
Well, that may be, and I don't know where they sit, I'm just saying, well, for one thing, if I was
Well-
to try and go any wider, I'm gonna have to start building base, because I don't have the base out there to go wider.
Yeah, and you know something, maybe if people are gonna use bikes, they can come through the school, by the baseball field, and, I mean, there's a path there already,
Yeah, there's
so.
a half mile away, there's a bike path.
Huh?
Half mile away, there's a bike path.
Yeah, so it's really not necessary.
But this
But
was,
But
Drop the 4
it's
foot
wide
shoulder
enough
off.
for people to walk on and feel safe, and, yeah.
I mean,
No, I just
to be honest, it
hoping
doesn't
you weren't
meet
gonna
the
put the
federal
rumbles in
requirements for it,
because
but
you know people
it
will
is
ride
wide
the
enough for a
bikes and
bike to
walk
ride
out.
down
Yeah.
the shoulder
Yeah.
without.
Well, and
Yeah.
depending on who you ask, some of the individuals actually like the rumbles on the pavement, because that way if the traffic's getting over on that 4-foot shoulder, they'll hear that too.
The other nice thing with those 4-foot rumbles is a lot of people found out last night on 150 north going towards Hazelton. They're nice when it snows. You know when you're getting off towards the shoulder.
Yeah, and there's a lot of safety features to it, and the real issues you get a lot of run-off-the-road fatalities, and you get a lot of crossover fatalities. Yeah, this is an effort, about the only one we can make on trying to address that.
So you are putting the rumbles in?
So,
Not on
it's
this.
45 mile an hour.
Okay, all right, I just,
Yeah.
We
So,
talked
that's-
no, and then
I'm doing it on a lot of my other roads, so I'm on a lot of my other roads.
Is it a cost, is it a huge cost thing to put it on?
No, if I,
You just
and
probably
actually,
run it.
let's say, a year from now, 2 years from now, you said you wanted edge rumbles, center rumbles, I could work with the Office of Traffic and Safety and probably get a grant to do that. I can't promise that, but I've been pretty successful so far.
What do you do, grind them out then?
Yeah, matter of fact, that's the way that they're put in right now.
Oh, they are put in
Yeah,
by grinding?
Yeah, D22, when they ground, they came in after the paving was all done and ground those in.
Okay, so you don't save anything by doing it at the time of construction?
And this June, from Frost Avenue to Jessup, we'll be putting 4-foot shoulders on that, and center rumbles and edge rumbles with safety funds.
Do those
Some
rumbles
safety funds.
run the whole 4 feet when they put them in?
No.
No.
The rumbles are about 8 inches wide
Yeah.
on that 4 foot, so you
Yeah.
still leave yourself about 3 foot plus, a little bit of room in there. That if bicyclists wanna use that,
Right.
that's a good place for them, is my thoughts.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, does, your initial question, does that qualify as a bicycle route? No, it doesn't, because the federal guidelines is a 6-foot.
but is that gonna connect to some of our trails? At some point, I mean, we're looking at that in the future to connect.
Your other end will connect with that,
We have a sidewalk that Mr. Greeley put in on his development on the west edge. We will connect in there. Independence Light and Power has discussed putting the sidewalk from Mr. Greeley's property north to connect to Liberty Trail.
Okay.
So it'll start to create a loop in there. The 4-foot shoulders are not a bike classification, but they are better than what we have today. For a 45-mile-an-hour section of road, I think you will find it will be used for walking, running, biking. It will add to our amenities there, but we can't officially classify it as such.
Okay.
And I know that Mr. Kyle Labor has worked hard to put this in. He's got some very distinct advantages for having the paved shoulders. I think that we can take advantage of them as well, for our trail system, even if we can't identify it as such officially.
Okay.
the biggest key that I do out in the rural areas for the paved shoulders is the safety. But right behind that, the rest of my pavement lasts better. Because as you're getting all these heavy loads running the outside edge of that concrete, they wanna break, or asphalt, it'd be the same way. They wanna break those edges off by putting a tight paved shoulder in there that supports the loads out there.
Okay.
And that'll be legal to walk, ride bike, or anything on?
Yes. That's state code right now.
By 7 inches thick, that'll be legal for semis to go across it.
Yes, a lot of the old county roads were paved 6 inches thick and did not have that asphalt milling base in there. Well,
Yeah.
my problem is I'm taking away enough of that out of the center that I'm getting too concerned about staying with 6. Most everything I've been doing for overlays, D22, either direction is 6 inches thick. On top of the old asphalt base is the old concrete way down there.
I think it'll be fun, good that it's a 7-inch street, but really, that's not gonna be a street that a lot of semis are just gonna wanna run on. I wouldn't think.
You go to the Cobb factory there every day.
Do you have any idea as to when you're planning on starting this?
Well, it would be let June 20th of this year.
Okay,
And it would be required to be, Office of Contract sets how many working days they have. All right, and they also set a late start date. And so they would probably give them a late start date of July, August, and say it has to be done this year.
okay, very good.
And assume there's no major gremlins that come up anywhere along the way.
Okay, great, thank you.
Once I get it down there, it kind of goes up, I lose control of that because the state doesn't like the county engineers setting dates. You tell them they can't start till school's out and have to be done before school starts. It doesn't work for 99 counties.
Is there utility work at all that's gonna have to be done along there?
Other than one light pole has to be moved to get the radius in there.
Any kind of
And that discussion's gonna go on.
stormwater or anything like that needed out there along the way? Is that gonna be in
Well,
there?
there's some drainage that gets put in on that very east end.
Okay,
And there's one other thing that's trying to happen before we get there, and, we're looking, our local farmer wants to put a tile crossing in there. So we're probably gonna let him cut that, and we'll get it back in good before.
okay,
I would much rather not cut a road before we pave it, but you know what utility cuts are like.
okay. Then what we're asking for is a motion to approve the plans of the county shared land boulevard project.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Grover, seconded by Vaughn. Roll call, please.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
and Kurtz.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Glad you
Brian.
came
Thanks,
tonight.
Brian.
Brian?
Thanks, Brian. It's finally happening. Yay.
Yes. A lot of people been waiting for this for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is an addendum for the airport manager's contract. It goes through, I believe, September 2018, but there were some questions that came up about the private quarters and some things that way, so we are doing an addendum to straighten that out, and that's on your,
That's just that one sentence, isn't it?
It's a one sentence on section 4. I highlighted it on the contract attachment in red so you can see what it addresses. It would actually not go in the contract, but be an addendum that you add to the existing language. So that you're not opening the contract, all you're doing is modifying the rules that we have as far as inspections in the private residence area. It does limit the entrance in there to the city manager or police chief as designated by the city manager. In visiting with Carter and working through this, for Homeland Security reasons, there is no 24-hour notice that you would normally have for a residential property before you enter. As a matter of fact, with our T-hangers, we require 24-hour notice before we enter. But because of Homeland Security, it's not a good idea, so there is no notification required. But it does limit how many people can go traipsing through there unannounced.
I thought that it was, when we talked about it in the workshop, I thought that it was mentioned that it'd be permissible for the airport manager and I thought we were talking about a fiance or girlfriend or
Oh,
something.
no, that's who can reside in the living quarters.
Residence may be occupied by an employee of the airport only.
Yeah. And the residents Occupied by an employee of the airport manager only after express written consent obtained from the city manager. I did send you out a copy of the letter I sent to the airport manager identifying Gretchen, I lost her last name.
I don't know, but if you look at the second sentence, the residential quarters contained within the premises shall not be occupied by any partner other than the airport manager. That looks singular to me.
But if you go back to the fourth sentence, residence may be occupied by an employee of the airport manager only after express written consent obtained from the city manager. So, I mean, there is a provision in there where another person may occupy that with written consent from the city.
And that individual is an employee.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't read it the way he just said it, but I guess, I just, my thing is,
Carter, how do you read it?
I don't want a whole bunch, once it's
That's
done,
why I read
it's
it.
done, and, you know, it
An
should be
employee
clear, and it's not clear to me that it's another person.
Well, I think the way I read it, an employee can be, an employee of the airport manager can reside there with the city manager's consent.
Well, yeah, but
Of
what
which
if, what if he breaks up with her and gets another girlfriend that's not an employee?
Trust me, that's trouble.
Well,
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
It-
Well, then-
You might as well address it
then they aren't
now.
gonna, if they're not an employee, then they're not gonna live there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, that was the whole question that we got the opinion from Carter for.
okay.
And it's still our discretion anyway, city manager.
That doesn't make much sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, as long as it's stated that way. I
Well, she's
guess.
not living out there because she's an employee there.
I know, but
She's probably doing the dusting.
I don't know.
I don't know.
As long as everybody feels that it's clear.
It's clear as mud.
no,
There's no cash increase on this, is there?
No,
Okay.
no. This is just a clarification.
Okay.
But because the addendum does affect the airport manager's contract, it does require council approval.
I'll make a motion to accept the addendum.
I'll second it.
Motion by Hill, seconded by Grover.
O'Laughlin.
O'Laughlin said it first,
Okay.
he gets it.
Gina always clarifies me when she writes the minutes. She gets, she hears better than me. So you need a roll call for this.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Next is the IRS audit, of which we've been hearing for a couple of months that the IRS was auditing the years of 14 and 15. And doing so, they found an error in how the city was deducting, was it your insurance or your IPERS and?
There were two
Side.
the payroll audit consisted of the years 2014, calendar 2014, and calendar 2015. It involved a number of areas. One had to do with a automobile allowance for Chief Cook, just how it was being reported. The relocation allowance for the city manager, that would be me. Part of it was deemed not tax exempt or tax deductible, should have been put on a W-2, and it was not. And that's part of the breakdown here. When I became an employee, my retirement, my pension, instead of going to IPERS, goes to ICMA-RC under a IRS code 457B plan. The employee's portion of that is, the entire portion is subject to Social Security and Medicare withholding. The employee's portion was correctly deducted. The employer's portion of that retirement was not. And so as they break it down, the total payment due is $3,277.32 for the city's portion of the Social Security and Medicare. On the relocation piece, because it is subject to Social Security and Medicare as well, because it's not tax exempt, the city also did not withhold that on that portion that was not exempt to finish out the $3,277. At this point, we've been through this with the IRS auditor. He's been here and talked to us, I don't know, half a dozen times since last fall. I can find nothing wrong with his math. I strongly suggest that you agree to his findings and write the check for $3277.32
To the IRS?
to the IRS. It is, I mean, it is correct that the withholdings were done incorrectly.
And Gina, you mentioned in our finance meeting that they didn't penalize us, or there was no interest or anything, correct?
Nope, we haven't received any fines or fees as attached to that, just what they found that we should have paid is what they included. And this, $3,277.32, if approved, would be in addition to your claims listing that you approved earlier in the meeting as well.
I'll make a motion that we make the payment.
I'll second that before they fine us or give us any fees.
Sounds good. We have a motion and a second to approve the IRS findings for signature and acceptance and payment in the amount of $3,277.32.
Mayor, one other thing I think is important to point out, this is time sensitive, that's why it's in front of you tonight. The Government Performance Finance Committee also dealt with the issue of how do we handle the payment of this between the city and myself on portions of it. That's not time sensitive, so that will come to the committee of the whole. That conversation is still out there. I don't want anybody to think that it's been ignored. But being that it's not time sensitive, I think the committee of the whole is a place to handle that piece. This is simply for what the IRS is saying that the city owes, period. That's the only thing in question tonight.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Next is a motion to approve the liquor license refund for Majestic Bar and Grill, and that, the amount is set by the state itself for licensing. What did they,
Yeah. They closed at the end of January and contacted the Iowa Alcohol and Beverages Division, who canceled their license. What we're basically doing tonight is asking for the council to approve that we would issue them a refund, and then at a later date, Iowa ABD will send us a letter with the amount. However, we did call them and verify, and we do know that that amount is $308.75.
okay,
But this is so I can go in online to ABD and release it so that they can start that refund process for them.
That's just the city's portion, or is that the whole thing?
Nope, that would be the city's portion. Iowa ABD will pay back the portion
Right.
that they have on their end to them
Okay.
as well.
Thank you.
I make a motion, we approve.
motion by Hill, seconded by
I'll second.
Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Next is discussion of the city annual financial audit. I know you had all those were given to you last meeting we had on Monday at our meeting of the whole. Those were handed out. So, and I think we gave them to the new people at your orientation. Okay.
There's, I don't believe we're
I don't think we
required to
got
do any action on that. It's just for your information and any discussion that if you had that. They've already made their ruling, I guess, so there's not much we can say at this point. The audit was fine. They do have a number of findings that are pretty consistent with what have been there in the past. One of the findings that you will come across every year is segregation of duties. We do not have nearly enough staff to get to the segregation of duties that they would like to see in an audit. We could get into the neighborhood of 15 or 20 people working in City Hall offices right here to do the different steps of all the financial controls to come anywhere close to what they want for segregation of duties. They understand that, but they're also using the best practices, if you will, for accounting practices. We know that. We have taken several steps to ensure the double checking of each other, within the office, as have every city in, the state of Iowa, basically. But you will not get that comment removed.
Anything you wanted to share?
Nope,
Audit,
just,
the audit?
it's available online at the auditor's website. We have a copy here. If anyone wants to come in and view it, if you guys have any questions, feel free to come in and ask us about them, and we can talk to you about them or explain any questions you might have.
Okay. moving on to G, stormwater RFQ selection process.
We've got one
Our next
RFQ
set.
completed. We have 2 more to go. This is just an opportunity for you to identify how you want to go through the selection process for the stormwater study, RFQ. 3.
3.
2, no, 3.
So you're wanting,
City staff to bring us 3 finalists.
Okay,
you want just 3 instead of 5 this time?
3.
3.
I'm okay with 3.
Okay.
Would you like to, I mean, we're not in a tremendous rush, if you want to do it at the committee of the whole meeting again, or if you want to have a special work session just to conduct the interviews.
Committee of the whole.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you have it by that time, by the first of next month? Have them,
When you say
Yes.
committee as a whole, that's all of us?
Our workshop.
that's the one we have the first Monday of each month.
Yeah.
yes,
You
I'll,
can't take action at that meeting, but we discuss it. So that's when we would do interviews of the top 3.
What's the third one then? The third,
Choice?
that's the Southwest Water System. That's for the CDBG grant application.
can they be done at the same time, or is it
Sure.
time? I just wondered if we could do it at the same workshop?
We can have them both ready for you. I mean, we've got the information, it's all here, it's all ready to go, so we can do both processes at the same evening if you want to.
Does that,
Well,
can that
no,
use
I
3
mean, I'm
also?
okay if they're not time sensitive, we can do one next time and then one the next month. I don't care.
The,
Pretty easy.
we can do the 3, have our committee of the whole discussion and do the last 3 after the business portion of the workshop if you want. That would be a clean way to do it.
So we're in consensus that the city employees will get us 3 top ones, and we go from there? Okay. Then we're at reports. Tim is here. Do you have any reports from the street department, Tim? Okay. Dustin? Nothing for tonight?
No, just as soon as we get done, I gotta go home because my wife's birthday and I haven't seen her since this morning.
So you want me to hurry up, is that it? I don't think there's any other department.
We do have the fire department back here. I think Blake is going to step in for them.
Okay.
Al wanted me to let everybody know we were awarded a $1,214 health trust grant from the health trust late last week. And we're using that to purchase CPR and AED equipment, training equipment. I worked with the library last week and did a presentation there. They just got a new AED, and there's another department that got one.
Not from that grant. The library did get an AED through,
We did some just basic training there, and then once we get these trainers, we'll be able to teach them, other city departments and the public, and CPR and using the AEDs.
Is that our thing on the wall back there? Okay. Okay, thank you. Congratulations for doing that. No other department head? Okay.
We have one thing, Mayor. Al has
You got to come forward. Sorry, Tim.
Wear your
We make you
sweatshirt.
walk the,
You wear your Iowa.
I will say Iowa did get a #1 seat, so that was better than our seat. Oh, I guess you're in the NIT
yes, Tim, before you get yourself in any more trouble.
150 South, they're all back up and all the lights are working. And last week, light plant us got together and put the light back on it. All those lights are working and
Good. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to be kind to you from now on.
Be careful, he'll start going back and forth on wrestling, Tim.
look at it this way. Your coach got to go watch his kids play basketball last week.
Okay, when it comes to committees or even city council members, I'm going to start with Mike, because I
Well,
know he's
I'll-
got some
I'll
stuff
do
to
it.
share.
At the same time.
Okay.
we met, actually Deb and I and Mayor and Al, but we met last week, and a couple, three of the important things. Gina and the girls found the original, how is that? The grant that the city, no, the original petition to incorporate the city was found rolled up in a paper towel tubing in the vault. It goes back to when, Gina? Do we know? 18?
What is our year? 64, I think.
So anyways, it's in kind of rough shape, and they're a little bit afraid to take it out and touch it. So they're going through a process of applying for a grant and seeing if there's some way that this thing can be removed and displayed, protected and displayed. Basically, there wasn't any, it was just the discussion on that, right? And so they're gonna do that, but it was the original that was found. We talked about the non-sufficient fund deal, that's already been discussed. Todd Kuzi, and he did this last year, he requested that the lot across the street, he could rent, and he pays taxes on it, plus he gives I believe a $300 rent for it. And we, as a committee, we decided that Al should talk to him about, a 3 to 5 year deal rather than do it every year. One other thing that we talked about was there's some other people that are parking in those parks or the FEMA buyout things that aren't supposed to be parking there. And I think Al was gonna talk to the police or something, because there are some vehicles and things parked where they shouldn't be.
The question is, just for clarification, Mr. Kuzi is leasing a FEMA buyout lot that cannot be built on. One of the stipulations is we can put no permanent structures in there. However, there is no FEMA regulation that precludes us from leasing it out for those people that want to use it in any legal capacity based on the FEMA guidelines. And if he's parking a trailer or a camper in there and he's maintaining it and paying us a lease and paying the property taxes, it puts it back on the tax rolls. We have a minimal amount of lease that comes in. But maybe most importantly is we aren't putting our Parks Department in there to maintain it on a weekly basis. And we gave Mr. Kuzi a 1-year lease to see how does he do? Does he maintain it well? Does he keep it the way he said he would? And he has. So the question has come up is there are other people using similar properties without any stipulation for a lease or insurance to hold the city harmless, et cetera. And so we'll be following up with those to make sure that, we have a similar arrangement for those people that are using city property for personal use on an ongoing basis.
People park though in city parking lots and there's no,
But they're not storing their vehicles or equipment on city, parking lots per se or on city lots. And I think that is where the question comes in. They're required to have insurance for their equipment or their vehicles, even if it's on a city parking lot. But again, the question is, are they using it on an ongoing basis for storage of personal property? And Mr. Kuzi clearly is using it by his own admission. He asked if he could lease it for the storage of personal property. And that's what we have to determine is, are we using it for storage, or are we simply parking there while we're at the park or at the store, on and on we go with city property. City property is public. It is open to the public for everybody to use. But we've had several conversations about should people be storing personal property on city-owned property. And now it's up to the council. Mr. Kuzi is the one that approached us on this. This was something that he had requested. He is very interested in continuing the relationship if the council chooses, and we can talk about that at the work session, but if there's others that are doing it, it will fall back on the city to make the determination on how you want to handle that.
Who's responsible if something's lost, stolen, or damaged from his personal property?
The city is held harmless under the terms of the lease. That's part of the reason for storage of personal property on city-owned property is important, is because, you know, it's not ours. And we rely on him to hold us harmless. If there is no lease agreement, I don't know if we would be liable for that or not. That would be a city attorney question.
Well, we'd probably get sued, so that's the reason why we want to have the
leases.
the leases specify the relationship.
Well, what's the difference if you park your car in a city parking lot or on that city property?
Well, if you park the car in a city parking lot, it's a car, it's an automobile, it's not a trailer. That's the biggest distinction I see. So I don't think we allow people to store stuff on our city parking lots. They can park their car, but they can't store stuff. And what he's doing here is he's storing a trailer.
Right.
So I think that's the distinction.
Well, don't we have some limits to how long they can be in the parking lots? And several of our parking lots, don't they have 24 hours or 48 hours is all the longer they can be there without moving it and things to that degree too, I think.
I believe it's 72 hours, Chief.
I know for the streets it's 72 hours, some parking lots I'm not aware of.
Used to be 72.
You have
Done?
more?
Then a couple more. The city, the front steps were marked as an item of concern by the ICAP risk manager. We talked about that, and it's, the architect's estimate has been that it's 75 to 80,000 to make the necessary repairs, which even at that, don't bring it up to ADA compliance. We're not really recommending anything right now. We're just bringing it to the council just to be aware of that as we move forward, whether it's discussions of what to do with this building. You know, if there is a future plan in the immediate future to do something else, there's no reason to spend that money. But it is something that we're at risk of with the insurance company. We were fortunate enough to have one of our guys, and we named him the liaison to the council. Freddie Miller was here at our meeting. And he brought up, it might be a good suggestion that if you're gonna stay here and everything, you could run an ADA ramp, you know, outside of here on the sidewalk and come in. You know, it's something to think about if we are gonna try to get to be ADA compliant. But again, it's just, the main point of this was that the ICAP risk manager has marked it as an issue. Steve G. is inquiring, wanting to do an expansion of another 22 units. He's requesting some assistance from the city on that, and it was, and in fact, I think on this one, I'd rather that Al explained it so that we get it exactly right, because it's a little bit more complex.
In the last, in the initial development at the end of Cardinal Court, where he's developing currently, the council put a incentive, if you will, to buy down the cost of the infrastructure to develop lots. The land cost is the one thing that we can help out with to incentivize residential development. The goal is to incentivize up to 40% of the infrastructure cost through tax increment financing, using dollars that we're currently not collecting because it doesn't exist. And Steve has asked if we would put in water and sewer lines up front. And his current development, he paid for that all on his own. He waits up to 10 years to recoup that through the tax increment financing or development agreement. If we put it in, he doesn't have quite as much capital up front, which isn't quite as big of a hardship for the developer. So by putting in the water and sewer lines, the estimate is $122,000. There's about another $48,000 that he would be eligible for under our informal policy to get up to 40% of the total infrastructure cost. The city, under this scenario, would recoup that $122,000 of investment through tax increment financing. In other words, we'd be a patient investor receiving our money over that same 10-year period that Mr. G would be collecting his additional up to $48,000 if you decide to do a similar development agreement. But again, we would put the infrastructure in on the front end. Now, I will point out that there's been a little bit of discussion as to whether or not the city's responsible for putting in water lines at city expense. The city code is contradictory. In chapter 92, I believe it is, the water section, the developer can put the water lines in and have this, and meet city specifications, or they can request the city to put the water lines in, at which time they make a deposit equal to the engineer's estimate for the cost of the water line, and then we put it in after we have his money. In section 175, the subdivision development, it suggests that the city will put in the water line, and the sewer is still at the developer's expense. And so we're still working through that discrepancy between the two sections of code as to which one should prevail, or if in fact they are in conflict. I'm not sure I have an answer for you tonight. I know that we've read it several times. I've had staff read it, and I don't have a clear answer yet. But bottom line, if we're using tax increment financing to do this, we don't have to fight over that conflict at this point, because it's simply a matter of, the city would recoup it through the tax increment and repay ourselves regardless.
And get more housing.
Last thing?
And we have 22 additional units. He's still finalizing that. He has a request for 2 single-family homes in that area as well. So the number that he has there, again, he doesn't have it all brought before you yet for decision. That's why we're at the committee meeting. But he'll bring us his final plan, and we'll get it to the point where there's a development agreement that he'll tell us what he's going to do, and we say what we're going to do. If we're going to put in water and sewer, we want to make sure there's revenue coming off of that. The last thing we want to do is put $120,000 of infrastructure in and have him leave town, which I don't believe Steve will, but the standard that we followed is if we can do it for one developer, we can do the same incentive for anybody else that walks in. We want to be consistent that way. So I think it's just good practice to hold everybody to the same standard. And I know that Steve feels the same way.
Okay, the last thing that I have, and it's got nothing to do with this report. I've been pretty vocal about, when people make a complaint or a comment or anything, that they should come to the council meeting. And it was brought to my attention, actually by Deb and my wife, that it was in one of the last couple council meetings that Tyler Rasmussen came here, and it was regarding the U.S. Cellular Tower. He was making some comments that, in retrospect, when I think back, he was really supporting the Parks and Recs department as far as the monies from that thing going to him. I jumped on him pretty hard. Tyler actually apologized to me. I sent something back to him, but I think I need to publicly apologize to Tyler. I shouldn't have done that, and so I apologize to Tyler for that, and thank Deb for also bringing it up.
That's nice, because that way the public knows it
Yeah.
too.
No, it's,
When we talked about it, you said you talked to Tyler.
Yeah,
Well,
it
Tyler
was-
knew that, but the public didn't. so
yeah, it was
on
kind of
TV.
done through email and everything, but, the incident was on TV, so the apology's on TV.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you for doing that. Deb, would you like to go next?
No, just on that one, I was in Texas when that happened, and I couldn't hear Tyler talk, and so a little bit of it I could, and it didn't sound
Okay.
too good, so yeah.
Anything you would like to report?
That's it. No, I've got nothing, thanks.
Nothing? Bob?
Nope, nothing.
Okay. John?
I just want to thank everybody for welcoming me to the council and all the people that voted for me, and I'll try and do my best for you. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Danny, do you have anything?
Well, yeah, I do have one thing. I've been driving around, I noticed how good that creamery looks up there, Bob. And I just wonder if we couldn't get them trucks off of that street. You've got that, we talked about this before, and you kind of tried to work with me on it. You got the trucks off the street for about 2 weeks. And I know how truck drivers are. Some of them kind of forget. Anyway, 2 weeks later, they're back on the street and causing congestion. But I noticed you got a fresh parking lot there on Fourth Avenue.
That's supposed to be the truck staging area.
Well, could somebody tell the trucks?
Well, we'll work on it, as you said, talking to truck drivers some days.
Well, maybe we should, and I'm not throwing this up there in detriment to the creamery, but maybe we should just put a sign up there, no truck parking on that street. I noticed Tarpey even does not park on that street,
Yeah. Well, the staging area just finally got cleaned out from all the construction equipment, so
Yeah.
we actually did have a couple of trucks use it here. So, no, we'll keep working on them.
Okay, maybe, I don't know what we have to do to consider putting signs up there, making it a no parking zone.
Well, if you want the signs to be enforced, you have to go through an ordinance process to put it in there. If you want to just put up a sign and hope they follow it, we can't do anything to help enforce it, other than wave at them as we drive by. But you'd have to.
This is a top secret. Every truck driver in the country will know that tomorrow morning.
I understand. Part of our ordinance review is finding stop signs, yield signs, no parking signs that have been put up, and there's no ordinance to back it. And so I'd recommend that you consider adopting an ordinance for any of those parking or traffic laws that you want to enact.
But being in the trucking business for 30-some years, there's nothing I hate to see any more than a no truck parking sign. It just irritates me. It's like throwing battery acid at me, but it really doesn't seem to be any way to get them off that street up there. I mean, you can't go out each time and tell each truck driver you can't park there, you haven't got that much time, I realize that. And I thought you did a pretty good effort of getting them off the street there for a couple weeks, but it didn't last long. So I don't know, I'd like to see something put up there, to keep them from parking on that street.
We used to have a no parking sign there, and the truckers all ignored it, and we found out there was no ordinance to support it, so I think the last chief asked to have it taken down because.
Well, we'll send Dustin down there and explain it to him.
Yeah, so it was, because people would call and say there's no parking sign, and he'd show up and couldn't do anything because, as Al said, there was no ordinance, so finally the city took it down.
How tough would it be to get an ordinance?
It's a matter of the council having a public hearing and.
We had 2 or 3 of them today already.
Wrong topic, but.
Yeah, but.
Well, we do have a city ordinance right now that will help you out, Denny, because currently you're only allowed to park on city streets for 72 hours.
Oh, they're not there now.
Oh, okay.
Bob, are these guys, is it like,
It better not be there 72 hours.
is there pretty good repetition of the same guys who are coming and picking up stuff and dropping?
No, what'll happen is one guy pulls up and then he waits and then the next guy pulls in behind him and.
Yeah.
We've tried to get them to stage down by the well house to the west. They'll do that for a while, then we try to stage up there. I think part of what will help is at some point we're gonna move the shipping office up to the new cooler area so that then they'll use the staging area because they don't want, heaven forbid, you walk farther than you have to. And so I think they'll start using the new staging area, that cinder area to the east of the LP tank, once that office gets put up there. But right now, it's easier to jump out of the truck and walk over to the office.
You mean they're picking the easy way out, Bob?
Hmm?
You mean they're picking the easy way out?
It's shorter.
Oh,
We can draft an ordinance for your consideration if that's the council's wishes.
Our city citizens committee that's reviewing all the ordinance can address this too, and if there's other things they see and bring recommendations to you also. So you have some options.
Okay. That's all I got.
Okay, Austin?
Nope, nothing.
Mike?
I'd like to thank everybody for welcoming me, and good first meeting, and thanks to my constituents who voted for me.
Thank you. Carter, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Not very much. I want to congratulate John and Mike on their new lot in life. Congratulations. And my sympathy at both at the same time.
Yeah, sympathy.
And I want to wish Dustin's wife a happy birthday, for goodness sake. So that's all.
Thank you. Gina, do you have anything else?
Nope, I don't have anything. I'll get the budget submitted tomorrow to the county and to the Department of Management for you.
Okay. Al, do you have anything?
Several short topics. One is we did receive a grant through ICAP for a safety grant, if you will, to buy an AED for the library. We got one last year for the Parks Department. This year it's to the library. It's a $1,000 grant that we're eligible for annually, so we did write it in January, and that's already in place. We did receive an update on our workers' comp mod factor. They were in town. They did a review of some of our facilities, as they do annually. We did get a clean bill of health. Everything looks good. We were complimented on how well our departments are following the work comp. I think they call it a common sense audit. We walked through the departments to look for issues that could be work comp issues. They found none when they came through. In addition to that, our mod factor, which sets our rates, went from 0.75, which is very good, to a 0.68. And since 2012, that has saved the city almost $30,000 annually in our premiums. So thank you to our staff who worked very hard at maintaining that. I know that the previous police chief worked hard as our safety director. Staff have continued that with Randy's departure, and kudos to all those people that pay attention to those things that cost us money. We did have contact from U.S. Cellular. They are contemplating a lease or purchase of a piece of property for their tower next door to City Hall, and next door.
Really?
So,
I think that's one Denny was recommending.
that's right. So, at this,
Did a hell of a sales job.
at this point, there is no provision that I can find, and Carter and I have talked, where the city has to be involved in that if that goes through. But U.S. Cellular was concerned. They wanted to verify that, they were in a position where they can do that. And I don't see anything, there's no zoning ordinance or anything that would preclude a 100-foot tower on that parcel. So,
They still put the fence up and stuff for safety purposes?
yes, the fence, they need to put the fence up for their own benefit, as well as aesthetically. I think we'd want that, and we'd encourage that. And so I think we still have a working relationship there. I just wanted to make you aware of it in case anybody had any strong concerns about it. I don't know that there's anything we can do.
It's a no-lose situation, isn't it now?
Just $6,000 for the city.
No, but we plugged up a hole on Main Street for number one. We got more taxes out of it, so I think it's good.
Absolutely. We are working on, I again visited with Kevin at the light plant today. We're going to put a second light up at the tree dump. We continue to have sporadic issues with garbage being dumped there. So we're going to put another light up on the north edge of the property. And Kevin thinks he's found a solution for our cameras. We have a quote for $2,500 on a security camera that we can pick up who's dumping and what have you. But I think there's about a couple $100 solution. It's a home solution, not a commercial solution, that should work. We can stream the video, capture the video for 6 or 8 days at a time, and, try and curtail some of that, because it's very expensive, not only in our cost for disposing of these things that are dropped off there, but also because our city crew take a lot of time to load up mattresses and couches, dressers, what have you. Basically, some weekends it turns into the city dump, and it is illegal. The fines are pretty stiff. I believe it's a couple $100 the first offense, and they double each ongoing offense. We have to catch the people doing it first. So I'd use this opportunity to say, please don't take it there. The taxpayers fund that facility, and we don't want to use it inappropriately. DNR has the right to close us down. If they came in and found 6 or 8 mattresses and a couch and a dresser there and thought that we were using it as a city dump, they can close that, and we'd lose a tremendous asset to the city. So we are looking at putting those security cameras in there, putting the lights in, and really curtailing that activity.
A number of years back, they used to do a city cleanup twice a year. And when people put stuff out, they weren't charged for it. This year they were charged for it. Is that something that we can do again, because maybe the people can't afford to haul it somewhere? I don't know why they don't, but.
Well, we are working on I call it a Waste Amnesty Day on June 10th. It's the same weekend each year as we've had the last 3 or 4 years. Last year it was, maybe $8,000 that we invested in that process, taking TVs, well, we didn't take tires last year.
The year before we did.
We hope to bring that back, and I'm working on that, but the drop-off site had some issues and we weren't able to use it. But, tires, TVs.
But didn't we
metal.
charge for that when we picked it up?
No, we don't charge for it when they bring it to us. If you have something you want to put it on the boulevard in front of your house, that you are charged for.
Right, and some of those people probably don't have means to have a truck or,
Well,
to haul it, so.
right. So, again, the Waste Amnesty Day, we're working on putting that together and rolling that out in June. I did visit with Waste Management about, instead of doing one day a year, if somebody wants to have an excess garbage, you have your couch, your mattresses, what have you, they're working on a deal where we can do that any time of the year. All we have to do is call up to Waste Management, up to Inditel, and tell them that I'm at this address and I want a pickup of, 4 mattresses and a couch and whatever the case might be. They'd still be billed for that. But instead of trying to wait for a whole year to get rid of it, can we do it where you have that option anytime? You simply have to make a phone call. So that's something we haven't got finalized
I think
yet.
you can do that at Waste Management right now, can't you?
Well, they will do it for you. The challenge is the billing, and we're trying to put it in there into a program that they can market, we can market, and that will work for them. They have to have enough staff, they have to have the trucks and the, what have you, but yes, we can get that done for you. But we'd ask you to call, call down to Inditel and let them know that you have an abundance of garbage that day instead of your normal rollout, and we can accommodate that. But if it keeps those items out of the tree dump, that's really our goal.
Taking the dumpster out of there, I think, helps a lot. I live just like 5, 6 blocks above that, and it improved it greatly once the dumpster was out of there.
A lot less tempting.
Yeah. And I thought there was a camera in there already.
There is a camera in there. The challenge that we have with that camera is there are people that are sneaking in the north side instead of the south side, and we can see them coming in. Sometimes we get a clear license plate, sometimes we don't. We have encouraged a half a dozen people to pick up what they lost when they dropped off their branches. But, we still have ended up with some.
I'd find them.
Talking about what Deb's talking about not having the ways and means, so to speak.
Yeah, that isn't a problem.
I was just talking to Dustin earlier. There's a guy that supposed to be cleaning his yard up. And he's got about a pickup load. And the other day, he worked all day long picking this stuff up. And he hauled it, we assumed, to Waste Management. Then he turned around, hauled it back, and put it back in the yard. Apparently, he didn't have enough money to get it in the gate. I never heard of that before, but what do you do then? The guy did actually go to the work of moving it. Couldn't get it in the gate.
You sure he actually did haul it someplace or just put it someplace out of the way for a
No,
while and
he
he
hauled
brought
it
it
back and
back?
threw it back in the yard.
He probably had
Cost
to
him
weigh it
anything,
up
yeah.
when he got
Yeah,
there, and they
Excuse
told
me?
him how much it was gonna cost.
Yeah, he turned around and left. Went home with it.
Yeah, so we don't get
We
those
done?
places cleaned up.
I think didn't we, when we first did our first, we talked to Waste Management about if they couldn't have a truck just go around and pick up, and they wanted the one central location. It seemed like we had some discussions with,
If we'd haul it to them, it was free, but if they come and got it,
yeah,
it was a charge.
And they still do that, the week of the
Yeah.
cleanup, and actually year-round. If you call and you say, I have an abundance of trash to be picked up, they will come and pick it up if we let them know, but there is a fee for that. And, again, this proposal or what they're working on doesn't change that. What we're trying to do is say, look, if you've got a mattress, it's going to be, $5. If you've got a couch, it's $10. If what is it? So you have an idea of what they're picking up volume-wise, so they can have the right equipment to pick it up, but also so you know what it's going to cost before they get there, before you get the bill.
I think what Deb's talking about is and I understand what she's saying is, you have people that just don't have a pickup, they don't have something to load.
Funds to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't solve it, because I think like a mattress is $25. TVs are about that, so you start adding a junk load of stuff, and people aren't gonna spend $100 to get rid of their junk, they're just gonna,
Wonder-
or some people aren't, they're just gonna junk their yard, or,
I wonder if we could
Illegal dump?
contact a service organization that might have access to some pickup trucks that would donate their services for a day or something.
I think that's a good idea. I was thinking about that too with some organizations, even some of your kids, they can drive.
I remember back years ago when I was in the Air National Guard, we had big 6x6 multi-fuelers, and we'd go all around town and pick up all that stuff for
Yep.
free,
And then haul it out to,
haul it out to the dump.
yep.
But
I think that's worth looking into as we work on our Amnesty Day to do that,
The-
see if we can't find people for that.
Yeah, and the only question I have is, where would we suggest that we take those funds from to pay for that? If people don't have the funds, I understand that, but then we come back to, we're gonna take the money out of the tax rolls of everybody else to pay for it.
I think what John's talking about is see if we can get some volunteers who happen to have trucks.
Oh,
that For that particular day would be a place that they could call and they would go pick it up for the people who can't afford or don't have access to trucks.
But Waste Management still charges for it.
Right.
They do.
On Amnesty Day, you
Not for
can take
Amnesty
any
Day.
truck out there?
Oh, no, not on Amnesty Day. I'm
Yeah.
talking about in general.
Yeah.
no, we're
Right.
just talking Amnesty
Yes.
Day.
Yeah, for Amnesty Day, if we could get some organizations that would volunteer and do that as a civic gift and donate their time and money, or time and energy. And, I'm sure they would still want somebody to call and tell them what they've got
Right.
so that they're prepared for it, but I think that's something we should pursue.
Council, right.
Do what?
Well, I think it's an excellent idea. The one thing I don't think we should get ourselves into is being a benevolent organization to everybody who says they can't afford to haul something to Waste Management. And I understand that there's some people that, are limited, but you open up Pandora's box when you start saying that, we'll take care of everything. I mean,
Well, do
that's.
it once a year, it's not like every.
But, yeah, and we do it. We do it once a year on Amnesty Day. I think that's a great thing, but what I don't want to do is, every time somebody wants to haul something to up there, say, I'm sorry, I can't afford it, come get it. Because that's just, like I say, that's Pandora's box.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Anything else? Nothing else? Okay. I just want John and Mike, you to stay a few minutes afterwards so I can let you know about your committees and stuff and ask you on some of those if you can, a few minutes later.
One of them likes the library?
What?
Does one of them like the library?
No, you still got that. Well, I'll ask them, but otherwise you still have it. You're doing homeless also, aren't you?
Huh?
You're doing the homeless committee and
I
going to that
fell the other day coming out of there. I've got a bad omen about that.
on the steps or where?
Yeah,
In the front, yeah.
yeah,
They're not-
Richard caught me after I bounced 3 times.
For what?
Not good. I don't have anything else. Does anybody, did we catch everybody? Okay, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
Motion from Grover, seconded by,
No, I'll second it.
Denny, it's gotta be opposite sides of the table.
I'm actually
I'm
giving it
sorry.
to Bob.
Hey, he actually spoke up this
did
time.
speak
I
up.
was-
That's the second time.
You take a pick, which one you want to
Give-
put
give
in
it to
there.
Bob.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are